Alhamdulillah, we meet again. After for a few weeks, we missed the lecture, mainly due to my health conditions. And Alhamdulillah, I'm in the recovery period now. And we are also approaching the end of semester. And yeah, actually, we have planned at the beginning to include many other topic or discussion. And till now, we are approaching the end of the semester, and I'm going to talk about the impacts of technologies, a few analysis of the impacts of technologies uh, on certain issue. And this is the last topic of this subject. And yeah, as I told you just now, we are approaching the end of semester, and you are supposed to complete your assignment, your group project, phase 2, and then after that you are having a 1 week revision week, and then if I'm not mistaken, on 11th of July, you may check or you may receive the schedule of the final exam. Your final exam for this paper, forecasting of technology or technology forecasting, tentatively is scheduled on 11th of July in the morning, 8:15, if I'm not mistaken, 3 hours, yeah, till 1 o'clock. There are two parts of this final exam. So these two part is split with a break. So you have to complete the first part of the exam, the first half an hour, and then maybe you may have a short break, and then you will continue another 1.5 hour. So the total hour for the final exam is 3, with a short break in between of this two part of the exam. And your final exam will include simply all the chapters or lecture notes or lecture WebEx meetings from lecture number 1 to lecture number 9 of today's lecture. Yeah, I will talk on that. Sure. So you have to be prepared for the final exam, and before that you have to complete the assignment or group project phase 2, and inshallah within this week I will try my best to, or by next week, to complete marking of your individual assignment, your quiz, test, and also the first part, the first phase of your group project presentation and your progress report. So inshallah, hopefully by next week, you will know your carried mark for your coursework. Without your phase 2 assignment. Yeah, inshallah. During the revision week, I'm supposed to mark your assignments, and then a week after next, or 2 weeks after next, on 11 you are sitting for your final exam, and then I'm concentrating of your final exam, and inshallah you will get your result. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm sharing the today's lecture. Can you see? Okay. Okay. Our today's lecture is about analysis of the impacts of technologies. We have done the economic analysis, uh, forecasting for economics. That was the last lecture number 8, lecture note number 8. Uh, I was talking about the macro perspective, including all those economic factors, the investment, the marketing, and one of the most important impacts in studying technological change is the finance or financial aspect of of the technology, or the impacts of the finance of the funds. However, uh, I would expect that you will study, or you already get that information or knowledge on financial aspect or finance aspect or investment aspect from other subjects in your course, along your course, such as you done that. And also there's one subject purposely for you, uh, technology financing. I'm not sure whether you have done that subject or you will cover that, which will include the investment aspect, yeah, financing technology, or technology financings, or maybe you have done uh, financial management or finance, another subject, uh, which you are supposed to be exposed how to measure your investment, how to calculate. That the most important aspect when we are studying the impacts of technology. Normally, we relate uh, to the financial aspect for the company, for the uh, organization, or even an individual. When we are change, or we are introducing a new technology, or we are studying about technology, we have to relate that the most aspect to the financial aspect or the finance aspect, such as uh, the of investment. How do you calculate investment? Any idea? How do you measure? Have you done accounting or finance or financial management before this, or technology financing? Any anybody from this group?
Yes, doctor, but we not really understand on what
Yes,
doctor try to say. What is it, doctor?
I can't hear you. Let me. Yeah. Okay. Okay. You are saying something. Now I increase the volume.
Doctor, what you mean on that?
Yeah.
Saya tak berapa faham soalan tu.
Okay. Uh, how do you forecast the return of investment? How do you measure the investment? You spend some money, yeah, you have fun, and then you invest some money for developing technology. So how do you do that? Last lecture we cover on economic aspect, mainly on marketing aspect, on macro issue such as the return, but in macro aspect. But in terms of micro business of technology, or we are investing in technology development, R&D, and so on. Yeah, that's micro aspect, more on technological level businesses. Uh, so one way of calculating return is NPV, not MPV here, multi-purpose vehicle, NPV, net present value, the value of money. We invest now, we invest uh, 10K now. So how much the return or the value of the money after 5 years time, for example. So, but I'm not going to teach you of that NPV, net present value of money, because we are it's quite long to understand, and normally you do that in accounting or in finance or financial management, and supposed to cover if you are not good uh, in technology financing, yeah, from finance panel or accounting panel will teach you on that NPV, because it's include time value of money, yeah, uh, yeah, which include interest rate. That's the capitalist system, yeah, uh, and it's involved banking, it's involved money, so it's also involved interest rate. Time change, uh, so the value of money also change. They have a specific table for reference to calculate the time value of money, including NPV, present value of money, annuity, and so on. Yeah, and another uh, uh, calculation formula for calculating investment is uh, ROI, return on investment. Yeah? For example, you make loan from bank, let's say bank always impose 8% of interest rate. When they lend the money to you, you make borrowing from bank rakyat, they will charge you 8%. And then uh, for the forecasting purposes, you can calculate return on investment by using formula on return on investment. You include all those factors, and then also the interest rate, the accumulation of annuity, time value of money. And let's say as the result of the calculation, you will get only 10%. rate of return. Yeah? Rate of return, ROI, you get 10%. Whereas you have to pay interest to Bank Rakyat 8%. So simply your simple calculation is 2%. 10% minus 8%, you may gain 2% of profitability, but it's not enough because that's only direct calculation or simple calculation. You have to include costs, sunk costs, and many other costs. Normally, if your let's say your project, you are projected that your project will contribute 10%, you should ignore that project. It should be more than 13% for the purpose of profitability. Maybe at the beginning it's okay, but after some time you have to calculate. That's return on investment, ROI, and beside that also, that's among techniques for the forecasting of the returns of your investment, which normally use also payback period. Payback period. Let's say you invest now, and when you will get the return. For example, you invest 10K, and then when you will get back that 10K. Yeah. So that also part of forecasting of technology. And in broader analysis, we call it break-even analysis. Break-even means that time that you are pay off, your investment are pay off or pay back. And before that payback period, meaning that you are in loss. And after that payback period, you are in profitability when total revenue exceed the total cost. You can graph or also using formula. Total revenue minus total cost. Yeah. If the total revenue is equal to total cost, that break even. And if TR exceed TC, total cost, meaning that you are in profitability. If total cost is exceed or more than total revenue, meaning that you are lost. That finally, which is normally calculate, or the most important study when we are studying about the impacts of technology, of development, research, and so on. But I would expect that you will cover that or already covered in other subject. And inshallah, there is one subject on technology financing, and you will study in detail of those for forecasting purposes or planning purposes of whether to accept or reject a project. Okay. And for today's lecture, we are going to look in more and also other aspect of impacts when we are doing analysis of technology or studying technology. The first is impacts on technology. Yeah. When we are doing R&D, research and development of a particular technology, so it's also parts of the study. We have to know, study the impacts of that technology to other technology. So that's the first aspect of impacts. Impacts of that technology to other technology. Okay, the second aspect, institutional or organizational impacts. When we are developing a technology, or we want to invest in R&D of a technology, or emerging technology, or emerging application of a technology. There also exists institutional or organizational impacts. Number three, social, cultural, and behavioral impacts. When we are doing forecasting, we should also include social, cultural, and behavioral impacts analysis. We should know when we are introducing or implementing or we applying a technology or new technology. So what's the effect or the impact of that technology to the social, cultural, and behavioral. And next, political, also, and legal, we have to take into consideration when we are doing forecasting of technology or technology forecasting of a new technology or new application or emerging application of technology. And among other important aspects that should not be neglected are the environmental and health impacts. Talking about impacts of technology, lots of discussion, a lot of discussion in you can read in many articles about the there's not lately but more than 50 years already. Yeah, people discussing or talking about impacts of effects of technology. One of them is Schumpeter, one of the famous uh, innovation economists, Schumpeter. He come up with the theory of ambivalent. There's one word. You can search the meaning of that word after this. Ambivalent. AMBIVALENCE. Ambivalence. Yeah, simply you can easily understand two faces of technology. Two faces of technology. According to the theory of ambivalence, technology may have two faces. Yeah? The goodness and the badness of technology. Yeah? The good impact or good effect and also the bad. That ambivalence theory, more or less like Doraemon series. Yeah, almost every series of Doraemon and Nobita, they show a new technology or introducing a new technology or some kind of technology, and this technology always have the goodness and also the badness. When Nobita apply or use that technology, showing that those advantages of the technology. When it has been abused or misused by Sunio and Giant, normally Giant abuse of that technology in the series of Doraemon. So it will show the disadvantages or the badness of technology. Some other theorists, they believe that it's depend on the way we use that. The effect or the impacts depend on the implementation or the application or the use. Will come accordingly, depends on way people use that technology. Okay, impacts on technology. Yeah, change in one technology begets changes in other technologies. As I show you in the beginning of this course. Now we are approaching the ending of this course. So we are summarizing up the technological change and also the impacts to other aspects. The first impacts that we should study or include in our forecasting is impacts on technology. So the change in one technology, so what's the impacts or effects on other technologies? Yeah? We can classify into three categories: vertical, horizontal, and integrative impacts. Yeah? The first category is vertical change, which relate to the upstream and downstream of the natural development within a given family of technology. Yeah? That's vertical, the upstream and the lower stream. As I gave you example previously in the early of this course about the vacuum tube, that was the electrical uh, developments or technology development. Yeah. Okay, we can consider vacuum tube at uh, the lower stream, of the electrical electronic industry. All competitors, all company in electrical electronic, they use vacuum tube before 1970. Yeah? And then change has been done. Yeah, Motorola and Texas Instrument introduced transistor. That upper stream of vacuum tube, and it changed. Yeah? And from that transistor, they come out with integrated circuit, yeah, IC, diode, capacitor, and many others. Yeah? And then larger integration, microchip, and so on. So that's we call it vertical changes. Yeah, when and a new technology has been introduced, or when we are studying a change in one technology, even a sub technology, yeah, that also impact, yeah, or it will affect the upper stream or the outputs of the family of that technology. I also give example of NMT 450. And then the upper stream is NMT 900. Next, GS for the telecommunication technology. And before NMT 450, they use, or people in the world use, uh, wired and wireless, code and codeless phone, yeah, including uh, car phone or taxi phone. I told you about the story of car phone and taxi phone in London. And then based on that application, uh, they come up with NMT 450. And from NMT 450, uh, they change a few sub-technology. Satellite technology, radio technology have been improved. So they come out with NMT 900. And then they change a few technology, satellite technology um, became GSM. And it's changed not only, and that's, we call it the vertical analysis of change or impacts, yeah, from bottom to the upper stream. Okay, next, horizontal impacts. We should also include the, when we are studying or forecasting a technology, we should also include the horizontal impacts of that particular technology. When we make change to that particular technology, uh, what are the impacts, horizontal impacts of that technology? Yeah, result when advances in one technology affect other technology as well. Yeah? One of good example in telecommunication and also electrical electronic, originally in electrical electronic, but then applied in also in telecommunication, camera, and many others. VLSI, very large scale integration. Yeah. From the vertical, vacuum tube, transistor, integrated circuit, and then larger integration of VLSI. Yeah. And this VLSI, we can also consider as generic technology. It has been widely applied in many product or technology, including telecommunication, mobile phone, camera, and many others. Microprocessor in PC, graphic card, in laptop, in uh, PC, digital camera, camcorder, chips in cell phone, and etc. VLSI, very large scale integration. That's the technology. So any the technology as well. Yeah. Let's say marginal improvement of VLSI. They improve VLSI technology. So it also will affect technology in telecommunication, in microprocessor, in graphic card, digital camera, camcorder, chip in cell phones, and many other products as well. So that's, we call it horizontal impacts, the same levels, and it will spread horizontally. That's the difference between horizontal and vertical changes or impacts. Let me show you the. You can let me share with you. VLSI technology. It was introduced, when they start using this in applying this in electronic product, and then in also in a computer and in telecommunication mobile phone. This is as you can see now, very large scale integration. Just imagine in this tiny cubic technology include all those we call it integrated circuits. Yeah? And then this VLSI docked into the PCB, printed circuit board. You can simply open your PC or your laptop or your phone, you can see inside. They have this kind of chip, or the smaller device may use a microchip. Also the same uh, VLSI, though some improvement or change have been made. For example, VLSI for PC always bigger than VLSI for telephone. Or also you can see in your digital camera, if you have camera, it's smaller than VLSI in your laptop. Yeah, and microchip use a smaller VLSI. So uh, the change from bigger to smaller size of VLSI, this is we call it integrated circuit, a very large. All the component are inside that tiny device, and they change, make it smaller, uh, till to the microchip. So it's in one sense, it's have the vertical impact as well, from the previous or downstream um, technology, improve and keep on improving. So it's a vertical. And in terms of application, we call it horizontal impacts. Yeah. With that, VLSI, very large scales integration technology, they can uh, diversify the applications into many other usage, many other application, or also emerging application, which is not yet, yep, uh, used now, but potential can be uh, explored. Yeah? In the future, maybe we can use this VLSI in many other application. We call it emerging application or potential application. That's, we call it horizontal impacts. Next, integrative impacts refer to those that blend technological change with associated contextual change, including factors related to customer, market, process, employee, vendor, owner, etc. When we are studying uh, about the change of a technology, or we are doing forecasting for a technology, or we are developing a technology, or we are doing research and development of a particular technology, we should also include the study of the contextual change, meaning that all other aspects or factors relate to the business of this particular technology, including financial factors, where you have to get the fund to continue the project. Because R&D of a technology incur cost, and you need funding. You need money to fund the running of the project. So this we call contextual change or integrated impacts. And also employee, when you are doing R&D, for example, you need scientists on that particular technology. For example, you are doing biomedic, or you are doing telecommunication. So you need particular expert in that area. So that employee, you need supplier or vendor. You also need to know government support system and potential buyers or customers, the users of. You have to study the demand from the market. The market study whether there exists already competitors in the market, the player, the leader of the market in that particular technology business, or you just a new. So all this we call it contextual change, and also competitors. Maybe you are doing R&D on a technology. However, at the same time, your competitor also doing the same technology, or maybe they already patent the technology and got patented. The patent has been granted to them. So you should follow, or you should include in your study or analysis. We call it integrative impacts, normally associated with contextual change. Those relate or associate with the development of that technology, including the customer, market, the process, and etc. Next, other impacts of technology. Also important to include in analysis or in the study when we are doing forecasting of a technology, development or research of technology, the institutional or organizational impact. The contribution of that particular technology to the organizations, to the company or to the firms. The return, for example. So what the impacts to the organizations or to the institutions. However, the definition of institutional is a more broad definition, including not only the firms and company and also stakeholders, but also the government sector include in this institutional or organizational impacts. So here it could be classified into two categories: internal and external impacts. The internal impacts, such as shift from production of copper wire to optical fiber. this is a telecommunication company in US, yeah? ITT, US company. They changed from copper wire to optical fiber. So it's the change or this technological change from using copper wire to optical fiber have a huge impact to the internal business of that particular organization, or we call it institutional impacts of internal institutional effect. Because they require different suppliers, yeah? They have to change from copper to optical suppliers, optical fiber suppliers. Worker skill as well. Yeah? The previous worker skills more on copper wire, and now they have to train the worker or to change the worker to have skills of in optical fiber. Managerial changes as well, and they have to reorganize the organization. Yeah? Some changes has been to be made, including financial change as well, because change of copper wire to optical fiber. Manufacturing methods. Before that they use the copper wire, and the machines, the methods have to be changed. Engineering as well have to be changed. This is, we call it impacts or internal impacts of that particular firms or company when they change from copper wire to optical fiber. So their business almost change, or we call it re-engineering. Yeah? Re-engineering. It's more like overhaul of the business. The method, the machine, service delivery. Yeah? Compared to the copper wire and optical fiber. Optical fiber is more efficient, and also in terms of the weight, it's lightweight compared to copper wire. So service delivery, the transport, the logistic, and etc. Have the impacts due to the change from copper wire to optical fiber. And then another aspect is external change or external impact. Change in one device or one technology impacts the externals, such as what's happened, accident happened in Japan and nuclear plant in Japan. Yeah? Though it's due to accidents, but the disaster or the impacts is huge. So it's pressured State Public Service Commission to be extremely cautious with nuclear power. Yeah? Like in Chernobyl, the power plant, they said has been accident, but there are many theory of Chernobyl in USSR at that time. It's village, but it's empty village till now. Only a few number of people living there, but these people also has been said they have changed. Not only the it's changed after the accident, but till now it's also have the biological effect of these people become mutant. Yeah? biologically they have changed. The livings, the plant, the soil, and almost everything in Chernobyl have changed. And also in Japan, due to the uh, uh, tsunami, yeah, a few years ago, which destroyed their nuclear plant, and it's put the pressure not only to Japan and to Soviet Union, but to the world, all over the world, to be cautious of this nuclear power plant. That's organizational or institutional impacts. Organizations or institutions will include government, local governments, authorities, state governments, and also uh, the worlds in general. There are institutions like World Health Organization and many other uh, world organization concerned with the impacts of technology. As I told you in the early of this lecture, the ambivalence, the beautiful and the worst uh, faces of technology. We have the good advantages of technology and also disadvantages of technology. And sometimes not only because of abuse or misuse, but also accidents, as what happened in Japan and also Chernobyl. It's affect the living. So that's the impacts. Uh, Ambivalence of technology. Many other example, not only nuclear power, supersonic as well, and many other technology has been stopped or legally has been legally uh, they come up with rules and procedure or regulation, such as what's happening in Iran now. They said they want to establish nuclear plant for the electricity, but then has been stopped by the uh, other many other European and US countries for Iran to use the nuclear as their technology for the uh, electrical generator. Okay, next, social impact. Uh, the technology as well say as may have impacts on social, or social may change as well. A simple example like uh, this smartphone or mobile phone has changed the livings or lifestyle of the people, the youngsters. Yeah? I can see, or I see this because yeah, I live in the both generation where when previously we only use the cable phone, yeah? Those dial phone at home, and during my childhood we do not even have that phone in at home, yeah. And seldom we use telephone. Yep. uh, when I was in secondary school, I stay in the hostel, so sometimes I make call. We have the public phone at that time, yeah? We used to put coin in that phone, and then they make change using card. And next, we have still mobile phone, but we call it that's it's more like we have a handphone. Yep, we can carry. It's not connect. It's mobile, but not. We cannot going far from the terminal. We have one terminal. Uh, handphone. We can talk in the room. Yeah, that's the later generation, and then sometime late 1990s, we have that mobile phone, early generation of mobile phone. Yeah? And now it's changed. Uh, lifestyle of the new generation. Yeah. For example, uh, your generation, my children's generation, yeah, which have a lot have been influenced by the uh, smartphone or mobile phone. The lifestyles have changed. They are totally changed. During my childhood, we spent most of the time outside, playing outside. Yeah. We, in terms of creativity at that time, and also social interaction with people, mixing with people. That was that were during my childhood. But it's changed. This is social impacts. Yeah, quality of life, yeah, including food, housing, family, employment, income, leisure. Yeah. Uh, as I told you just now, yeah, we spend most of the time or leisure outside of the house. But nowadays, people they uh, spend in their room. Yeah, the new generation, yeah, with their phones. Yeah, so it's changed, uh, including foods as well. Yeah, you can also read in you can browse in Google uh, fast food impacts to the society. In our culture, in Malay culture, in Chinese culture, uh, and also in Indian, we used to eat with family. When we want to have food, we always wait all the family members and we eat all together. And during this meal, uh, lunch, dinner, during this meal, family member can exchange communications. We can talk, share problem, and so on, experience. And also, uh, one aspect of value in that we call it meals is the behavior. Yeah? Normally, we have in Malay and as well in Chinese, we have the leader, yeah, the father or the leader of the family. And in Malay, normally they will wait the father, yeah, and after the father start eating, then others can start eating. That's the social impacts. But now it's changed. Everybody got busy, and this is fast food. We have McD, we have KFC, and drive-through as well. That's a process technology change, and yeah, we can get that fast food. We can eat while driving. We can eat. Normally, people it's not in a family or in a group. So social impacts. In terms of housing, we have better housing. In terms of what else? Health as well. Yeah. Um, According to the study, uh, the uh, the birth, the childbirth, getting better due to the health technology compare to the previous death rates. Yeah, was more previously, but due to health technology, we have better uh, birth rate. But the member of the family gets smaller. Yeah, not only in Chinese, but also in Malay. Yeah, uh, yeah. Not long ago, but a few years ago, I asked in my lecture, for example, uh, there are families, a student who have family members of 16, 12, yeah, last 2 years. Yeah, when we was having a physical lecture in class, I asked my student, how many members of your family? The, the most 16 from Kelantan. And there are a few other students have 12, but rarely nowadays to have 16, 12, even 8, even 6. Yeah? For most Chinese nowadays, I did ask in my class, one or two sibling only in a family. And also in Malay, three the most, four, 3 or 4, and uh, some of them up to 6. This is social impacts or change due to change in technology. Yeah. In general, uh, we have a better income, a better in terms of purchasing power. We have better purchasing power, but in terms of number of family, we are reducing. Yeah. Um, Next, cultural and behavioral impacts. Uh, Change in technology also have some impacts in cultural and behaviors. I did mention to you just now, such as values. Values is something that we believe or uh, that we have. Yeah, that values. Uh, Behavior of workers and users also change. Uh, Such as example of values, respect to the others. Yeah? Or yeah, as I told you about the family eating or family meals, they actually inculcate certain values of respect to the elders, to the oldest in the family, for example. And during the meals, uh, family members also teaching to behave accordingly, uh, especially for the Muslim. We start eating by Bismillah, using right hand, and the way we choose the nearest food uh, That's inculcated during the meals. But when you have the fast food, sometimes you have burger on your right hand, your drinks on the left hands. That's the behavior. The Islamic teaching, you have to use the right hands for eating and also for drinking. That the teaching of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that values. Uh, Not to blame the KFC or McDonald's, but that fast foods. Yeah, there are many writings on that fast food culture. You can read in Google's the impacts or effects of fast foods. And now it's become a way of the people, the modern or the youngsters, the way of eating, uh, McD or KFC, one example, Starbucks. Yeah. During my time, yeah, maybe we don't have enough money to go Starbucks at that time, but it has inculcate or teach us to be more cautious in spending money. That's also value, as in that's the teaching of the Quran. ولا تجعل يدك مغلولة إلى عنقك ولا تبسطها كل البسط فتقعد ملوما مدحورا. Don't open your hand widely, meaning you spend your money uh, with open hand. And don't also be stingy, like you are putting something like this to your neck, but you have to be wisely spend. Providence. That's providence provided by gods to you. You have to spend wisely. Yeah, it's become that's previously it's not our tradition, Starbucks or whatever. But now even my student, they want to when a few of my students discuss project, because lately we the UTM has been closed and we are under PKP, and last semester when it's PKPB, uh, I have a few space students when we want to have PSM meetings. So we go to this place, and many students will spend their time at Starbucks, for example, Mama restaurants. That's parts of cultural and behavioral impacts, change of values, behavior. Next, political and legal impacts, such as we can see in our previous election, due to influence of media. Yeah, the physical campaign not as good as uh, influence of each government, change the political situation in Malaysia, especially the youngsters, which mostly use media for communication. So they get information through media. And this is quick. And one of the advantage of technical media or communication nowadays is very fast, very quick compared to TV, like news, for example. It's a bit late, whereas we can get info from Instagram, from many other media. Yeah, very quick, and it's with the spread or it's spread quickly, and youngsters they share among themselves, and it's affect their thinking and their minds, and also their voting for the election. That's why it's changed, yeah, our political situation in Malaysia. Whereas previously, people, uh, uh, many people rely on physical campaign. Politician can say anything during the campaign, such as he will change the price or he will decrease the price of oil or benzene immediately after he win the election. That's an example of the campaign at that time. But nowadays, people laughing because through media it spreads that jokes. Because it's not really true, so it's false campaign. Nowadays, people can see many more facts and information through media. Uh, Also, new laws in conjunction with changes in such technologies such as photocopying software, biomedical and genetic engineering, etc. Okay. We IP, intellectual property, but we have started having the law. Yeah, we have outlined of implementation. That's another story because even now we have PKP, for example. Uh, yeah, the operator or the implementation of simply to say the police. We need to train more our police. We need to train more to educate our police. So as the implementation of the intellectual property law, photocopying, and so we have to improve from that for implementation. As we know that many has been fined, yeah, due to not update. That's a simple example of mistake by the police in terms of the implementation. Though the ministry have come out with a specific SOP procedure, yet they make mistake and people have to pay fine due to the mistake. And of course, in implementing of the intellectual property law, lots have to be done in terms of educating and also training the police, the operator. Right? That's why we still lose in copyright, photocopying, and software. We can easily get uh, uh, from the shop, though they are not original. And also other issue like biomedical and genetic engineering are still in discussion. For example, from Islamic panels, genetic loan and so on. That's political and legal aspect. If you are involving in genetic, for example, engineering, you have to consider this, yeah, from Islamic aspect and so on. And other impacts of technology, international impacts, and nowadays borderless or globalizations uh, transcends national boundaries. Uh, so we have to consider as well this aspect of international impact, such as marketing of our. Nowadays, we can use Lazada, Shopee, Amazon, and many other international platform for marketing product. That's an example, and especially during this PKP, much easier to buy things from Lazada, Shopee, and many other platforms. Next, environmental and health impacts. This is one of the important aspect. Normally, you have to know. You have when you are doing something about technology, you have to understand the environmental and health impact. Yeah? You should concern. You should know the legal aspect of environments. Otherwise, uh, felt guilty. If you has been caught, you will have guilty. Though you may say that you don't know about the environment and health aspect or legal aspect. Okay. Uh, environmental impacts includes ecosystem, land use, water, air quality and quantity, pollution, noise, and radiation. Yep. It's happened many times in Pasir Gudang, for example. Yeah. People dump in their waste, the manufacturing waste, and some of them are dangerous into the river. Or in Selangor as well, uh, where the water system flow out from their manufacturing into, or not only manufacturing, including the uh, farm as well, chicken farms and other farms, pigs farm. Yeah, they flow out the waste into the river, and it's polluted the river and polluted the air. So this is the concern. In Muar as well, Muar is well known with the uh, 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 the making of uh, it's robots. Yeah. Mm. Uh, Many small scale business, they have the machine and they have the some of them they uh, do the business, the making or the manufacturing of this robot just at the back of their house. Yep. They became the vendor or become the vendor of a company, and then the main company will assemble and then produce those robot. And Johor is the one of the big contributions for this business. However, due to environmental aspect, the waste of this process of making robot, more have now become the concerns of we have Ministry of Environment because they said it's polluted the area. And also, if you have a chicken farm, also may have some pollution as well. So this is the concerns. And noise nearby the timber industry, for example, and radiation, like in Kuantan, they have there's one company just established a few years ago, which was said to be safe. I have two space students previously from Kamaman. They stay in their home in Kamaman, but they work in Kuantan in that company, uh, processing the waste, which was previously run in China. But that process of processing the waste has been closed in China and moved to Kuantan. They said, if but one of my friend passed away due to radiation. Imagine, very quick, just a few months due to radiation, caused death. Not only him, but a few others as well. But they closed this case. I do not know. Maybe some political issue background as well. So that's environmental aspect and health aspect as well. Health hazards such as uh, due to large-scale technological systems uh, or discrete small-scale accidents. When I was work in tire manufacturing. Previously, I was work in Sime Tire. They have lots of rules and regulation. They have when you are entering that into the operation or production area, you can see yellow lining. There's a red floor in red and color or red zone with the signal to show that it's danger. It's not safe. Lots of hazards and accident as well. Although it's discrete and small scale, but it's happened and lots precautions, or we call it pre means that before it's happened. They have rules and regulation, SOP and so on, but it happens. People cut their finger, that considered as small accidents. Cutting the hands, radiations in combustion. Combustion is a chemical process of carbon black to make the tire become black. They use chemical combustion, some radiation effect. Look at all the effect has an example. It's slow, but it's dangerous or dangerous health impacts. Yeah. That's also health impacts. Yeah, after some time, yeah, some they have some SOP or procedure to protect or to precaution for the health impact, including the, for example, if you go to the timber processing manufacturing, they use small ear plug. It's not enough because it's the loud produced by that machine is too much. Yeah, it's over the decibel that our ear can handle. Yeah, that's why the worker after some time having the hearing problem, and also in magnifying in electrical electronics, some of the worker they are work in uh, repairing or rework or something. They use magnifying glass for certain times more than our eye can handle. Yeah, sometimes they got problem with their eyes or their eyesight. So that has impact. So we have to consider when we are implementing or we are doing research, R&D development, impact or impact, whether it's large scale, small scale, or low level, but delay effect as well. For example, people in Eskimo people in America, Eskimo in the Northern America, which was said that they never have cancer previously until they consume canned food. Yeah? To make their life easier, they import from other state to have canned food, canned fish, and canned foods. So they start eating canned food, and after few years, more than 20 years, they trace cancer of the people, Eskimo people, which was previously no cancer case because they eat food directly from the source, not processed food. Canned food, it means that processed food. Like we have sardine, we have burger, processed food. Uh, you can look in Google those processed food, how they make burger, McDonald's, KFC. If you watch that video by American people, you will avoid eating those food. Though burger from McDonald's and KFC in Malaysia is halal, but we do not know the never has been told about the process and so on. But it has been shown in US how they process. Okay, planning, forecasting whether each category of impact goes with even a marginal improvement for an emerging technology or emerging application of a technology, we have to consider, we have to study or to analyze, to take into consideration the impacts of um, this aspect uh, when we are doing technology study. Okay, that's all lecture for this semester. We have finished now uh, all the 9 lectures, which was previously planned to, I did plan to have more, but it seemed like my, and sorry for that, my health conditions do not permit for me to uh, have. So for the final exam, we only cover what we uh, covered in lecture. You have to also read the supplement chapter that I include in e-learning. So each chapter or each lecture notes has the a chapter, yeah, from the books. Have to read some tips for the final exam. I already submit the question for the final exam and has been uh, checked at the panel level, at the department level, and inshallah by this week they will endorse at the level. Part 1 and part 2, both part 1 and part 2 have 2 questions, and each part will take 1.5 hours to answer. In average, for one question, you have 45 minutes. And each question may have A, B, C, and D. There are questions just have A and B, and there are also questions have A, B, C, D. So, 2 parts, you have to answer the first part in the first half an hour, and then you have break, and then you may have another parts for another half an hour, then finish. So 3 hours altogether for those 2 parts of the exam. Last semester you have done your online examination. Almost the same for this semester, but I do not know they are going to brief more implementation of the exam for this semester. Okay. The question cover all the topics from the beginning of the lecture till today's lecture. Okay, for the first part of the question, you have to read the lecture notes. The first lecture note, the second lecture note, and also the chapter from the books that I attached to the lecture in the e-learning. Yeah? Lecture for that particular week, you have to also read the chapter from the books, both. Yeah? Lecture notes and chapters from the books on that particular topics. Okay, for the first 2 lecture is on forecasting, general issue of forecasting, on technological change, economic change. You have to understand, to answer the question. Okay. Some of the question is we call it Bloom taxonomy level 2, C2. Yeah, C2 means that applications, or no, C2 is understanding. Yeah, to test your understanding, and C3 is application. So some of the question at the level of testing your understanding, not memorizing, not necessary to memorize all the facts and info that I gave you in lecture and also in the chapter of the books. but you have to understand that the most important. It's also help if you read other, you get information from other sources as well, like you are doing your assignments, individual assignment, you get information from Google, yeah, of the topics. Like for example, your individual assignment talking about techniques of forecasting techniques. So you read from Google, not from my lecture or from uh, those chapter, a books chapter, but you get the information from. You can get the understanding from that sources as well, from Google. Yeah? There are also PowerPoints available. You have to search, yeah, to get the understanding. You have to explore from Google, because some of uh, the to test understanding, some of the answer is come from your understanding of the topics, not only too much dependence on my lecture and also to the chapter of from the book, but also uh, understanding you can get from other sources from Google as well, PowerPoints, PDF. So you have to read also from Google online sources. So that's the first two lecture about uh, forecasting technology, about technological change and economic change, and then uh, we come also uh, to monitoring and Delphi techniques, expert opinions. Okay. There are lecture on Delphi, on expert opinion, scenario. You have to read and understand this topic, especially scenario, and you have implement scenario techniques in your phase 2 group project. You are supposed to know how to implement scenario in your phase 2 project. That's why even you are not participating in your group project, you for the final exam you have to understand, because it has been applied. Suppose you are applying in your phase 2 group assignments. So Delphi techniques, expert opinion, scenario, you should know. Yeah? What else? And also this uh, impacts of technology. The last lecture, uh, you should understand, and also you should read the chapter from the books. Okay, that's all. I think if you have any question, you can share in WhatsApp group. Any question regarding your assignment, regarding preparation for the exam and so on. You can, inshallah. Hopefully by next week, I will uh, have your carried mark uh, complete, uh, and during your revision week, after you are submitting your final reports of group project, after marking, I will also include that's my plan. Hopefully everything goes well. Inshallah. Um, Actually, I have to say that I am enjoying sharing this knowledge, information with you, student, about this subject, forecasting technology. Uh, and I'm very sorry, and I seek your apology due to my weakness in the planning of this subject, uh, the implementations, also due to my health conditions. Uh, and I wish you that you gain something from the subject, and it's helped you to uh, make you, yeah, at least your understanding and knowledge more knowledgeable and also more matured. Yeah. Okay. I think that's all from me. And sorry for any mistake and weakness. Uh, Unfortunately, since last semester, we have this online, and this one of the disadvantage of online meeting is I do not know my student really. Uh, Previously, at least I know their faces. When we meet somewhere or anywhere, at least I know, oh, this is my student. Or we have met somewhere. But it seemed like we have online teaching or meeting, only my face appear on the screen. Uh, that's the disadvantage. If you meet me somewhere or anywhere later, just inform me that we have met, but online. Okay, that's it uh, for this course. Thank you for listening and paying attention and responding for cooperating in doing assignment and so on. Okay.
Doctor?
Wabillahi taufiq. Yeah, yeah. You have question?
Yeah, so for exams, we need to read everything right from the beginning up until this.
You have to wait for the instruction
Okay,
from
okay.
the faculty. They will inform you. But I tentatively it's on 11th of July for this subject
Yeah, I mean
in the morning.
the topics that will come out of the exams.
What?
I mean the
The
particular topics that
topic?
yeah, yeah.
I did mention just now to
Yeah,
you.
so we need to read everything, right?
Yes.
Okay,
What I mentioned just now.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You refer to lecture 1 till lecture 9, the notes, these PowerPoint notes, and also the supplements, uh, respective uh, chapter from the book in PDF, uh, also in e-learning. So you have to read them. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. You can if you have any more question, you can just WhatsApp me
Thank you.
privately. Okay. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sorry, Doctor. I want to ask a question.
Yes.
Doctor, can we discuss a little bit about the group project since we couldn't understand the questions,
Which one?
the number 3 and number 4.
I don't have the question. Okay, let me refer to the question.
Okay, Doctor.
Okay. This is the requirement for question number 3 and number 4, as mentioned by Kohan just now. Okay. Application and market segment related to the critical function. Is this one? Okay. Critical functions should be investigated in more detail. Okay. Requirement number 2, instruction number 2, you have to identify functions. Number 1, identify one or more critical function for your technology or product technology. Yeah? Maybe 1 or 2 enough. And then number 2, different performance parameters, utilities linked to the function. Okay, first number 1, you identify, you choose 1 or 2, and then you tabulate, meaning that you have to present the performance parameter of that particular function that you choose. If you choose 2, you have to do performance parameters for both of the function. If you choose 1, you just concentrate the performance parameters of that function. And then number 3, you have to study in more details of the application market segment related to the critical function. What is the demand in terms of technical performance and cost of the applications and market segments? You have to also read the guideline. This is how you are doing the study of the performance parameter and customer utility. Using this table for your technology. This is for the item number 2. And this is for the item number 3. Analysis of linkages between application, market segments. I give you example here. You can use table to illustrate for the analysis. Or you can also use diagram. As I mentioned here, for example, we have, just to respond to Kuhan's question, T stand for technical attributes or technical function, which is considered as critical or important in your study, which you believe that it can make money, it can generate wealth for you. So we have, let's say, TC, technical function that is critical, or performance parameters for important application or market segments. And for the market segment, you can predict estimation of what the market segment are willing to pay. Customer are willing to pay initially for this application. Sometimes performance and cost, or performance and price estimation are more useful and easier to estimate. So you can predict based on you can use this figure or table. This is technical function number 1, technical function number 2, and application A, application B, and application C. And how much it's cost, or how much it priced, for example, to include this function in this application. Okay, this is number 4, item number 4, identification of technologies and sub-technologies. Technologies and sub-technologies for realizing the critical functions. So you should study in more detail what technology to realize that function. This is aspect that you have to look, you have to do the analysis. Okay, I put here useful input for identification of technologies and sub-technology are including relation to function and subsystem, functions or subsystem of a product. So you have to do all the search, including the pattern search. So you can use UPSTO. I did show you last time UPSTO, US Patent Trade Office website. And then you start search the patent, use the patent for technology that you are going to use in your technologies or sub-technologies. And you can also relate to the educational system, research area. Research area is whether it's a biomedic or industry, whether it's electrical, electronic.
Doctor, hello, doctor.
Doctor?
Doctor, we cannot hear you.